They said the fire would hold at the ridge. They said we had time. They were wrong. We first saw the smoke 3 days before we ran. A thin gray column rising behind the mountains. Distant, harmless, the kind of smoke you see in late summer and shrug off. Controlled burn, Dad muttered over coffee. That's too far to worry about. We believed him. He was a firefighter, after all. Our town sat in a high valley, one road in, one road out, surrounded by trees, dry as bones after months without rain. The kind of place that looked like a postcard. Until the sky changed. That first night, the sunsets turned red. By the second, the air tasted like ash. Mom taped towels over the vents. My little brother Cody said it smelled like a barbecue. Like hot dogs, he laughed, not knowing what it really meant. I watched the news on my phone. 100,000 acres, then 200, then 3. Still, no evacuation order. We're a safe zone, Dad kept saying. It'll burn east. But even he stopped smiling when the wind shifted. The power flickered the next day. Cell signal was down to 1 bar. The fire line, once 30 miles away, had jumped the canyon. It was on our side now. That night, we packed bags. Mom didn't call it an evacuation. She said it was just in case. I stuffed in my hoodie, my earbuds, a half-used notebook, and a photo of my best friend, Kayla. She moved south last spring, out of fire country, smart. By morning, the ridge was on fire. We could see it from the porch. Blackened trees silhouetted against a wall of smoke and flame. Helicopters thumped overhead. Sirens screamed down the highway. Someone pounded on our front door. "You've got to go. Now." It was Officer Davis. His eyes were wild, shirt soaked with sweat. "They're pulling crews. Fire jumped the brakes. We're out of time." Dad grabbed the keys. Mom grabbed Cody. I hesitated, just long enough to look back at the house. My room, my books, my posters on the wall. The place where we lived. The place we might never see again. "Get in the car," Dad shouted. We drove, fast, southbound, and behind us, the ridge was gone. Only fire remained. We weren't the only ones running, but it felt like we were the only ones being chased. The 2-lane road out of town was jammed with cars, trucks, horse trailers, and one guy on a dirt bike with a dog in his backpack. Everyone had the same idea, the same fear. Just get south, get to the interstate, get away. But the smoke was getting thicker. Orange turned to brown, brown to black. And behind us, a new plume rose up, closer than it should have been. "Why aren't we moving?" Cody asked from the back seat. "Because everyone else is trying to live too," I muttered. Dad swerved onto a gravel road. Back route, private ranch road, not on any map. "There's a fire break this way," he said. "Old one, might be clear." We bumped along dirt tracks for 20 minutes. Trees leaned in from both sides. The sky was gone, replaced by thick ash clouds. My phone screen was dead. No service. No maps. Just battery-draining silence. Then we came around a bend and saw them. Flames. Not a wall. Not yet. But enough. Lick of fire climbing dry grass. Smoke curling into treetops. A crackling sound that grew into a roar. "We can't go through," Mom said, voice tight. "We don't have a choice," Dad replied. "We'll turn around. There has to be another way." "There isn't another way." That's when the first tree fell, just off the road behind us. Blocked. "We're boxed in," I whispered. "We're boxed in." We ditched the car, grabbed the packs. Dad pulled out a map from the glove box. Laminated, old, creased. "There's a dry creek bed. It runs south about 12 miles. 12 miles on foot? Mom asked. It's either that or stay here and burn. We didn't argue. We weren't walking anymore. We were surviving. The dry creek bed was narrow and choked with rocks. Every step twisted an ankle or skinned a shin. The smoke followed us like a curse, always just overhead. A dark ceiling pressing down. No sound but our breath, the crunch of boots, and the distant rumble of falling trees. How far now? I asked. Dad didn't answer. Mom stumbled once and caught herself. Then again. The second time. She fell hard, face first into the gravel. I'm fine, she said, even though she wasn't. She was limping now. Quietly, but obviously. Her shoulder was blackened, maybe burned. Cody started to cry, and I couldn't blame him. We hadn't eaten since sunrise. Our water bottles were half empty and warm as bath water. We should rest, Mom said. We stop, we die, Dad shot back. Look at them, James. They can't keep this up. Then you carry them. That silence that followed was worse than shouting. Eventually, we stopped anyway. Not by choice, just out of exhaustion. I collapsed on a rock. Cody curled against me, and Mom sat with her head between her knees. Dad kept pacing. He was trying not to look at her, trying not to let us see the panic forming behind his eyes. But I saw it. He was trained for fire, not this kind of fire, not when it had a name. His family. We'll hit the brakes soon, he muttered. It should be clear there. Old control line. Bulldozed back in '98. Nothing to burn. And if it's gone? I asked. He looked at me for the first time in an hour. Then we make a new one. We moved again. Slower now. But forward. The land changed. Trees thinned. Ground flattened. The smoke wasn't so thick. The wind shifted, briefly. And then we saw it. The fire break. A wide cut of scorched earth like a scar across the forest. A place where nothing grew. A dead zone carved into the hillside. And across that line, the fire wasn't burning. Yet. This is where we hold, Dad said. If we stay low, dig in. We might have a shot. Or we keep moving, Mom argued. Keep going. And walk straight into the canyon? It's a funnel for wind. It'll torch out. We don't know that. I do know, he snapped. And there it was, the crack. The fire wasn't the only thing tearing us apart. You think you know everything, Mom whispered. But this isn't a drill, James. This is our kids. This is us. He didn't reply. He just turned and walked to the edge of the fire break, scanning the tree line, scouting a plan. I stayed with Cody, and that's when I heard it. Helicopter blades. Distant. Faint. But real. I looked up and saw nothing but smoke. But I screamed anyway. Hey! Down here! We're alive! The sound faded, and just like that, we were alone again. We thought the worst was behind us. It wasn't. The fire break was wide, but it wasn't safe. The smoke shifted with every gust. 1 minute, we could breathe. The next, our lungs were filled with grit and panic. We have to decide, Dad said, crouching over the map again. Stay here and risk it overtaking us, or push west through the canyon trail and hope the fire skips it. Mom stared at the dirt. Her face was pale, lips cracked. Her leg was worse than she let on. Swollen, red, maybe infected. I can't move fast anymore, she said quietly. I'll slow you down. Dad stood. So we dig in. We're in the open here, I said. No cover. What if embers land on us? Then we put them out. With what? No answer. Cody sat curled in his jacket, playing with a rock. I wondered what he was thinking. If he understood that this wasn't a camping trip, that this wasn't temporary, that the fire might be the last thing he ever saw. I sat next to him, took his hand, whispered, "We're gonna be okay, all right?" He didn't nod. He just looked at me like I was lying. "We can't split up," Mom said. "That's all I ask. Whatever we decide, we stay together." Dad rubbed his temples, the dirt from his fingers smearing across his forehead like ash war paint. "There's a ranger outpost 6 miles west," he finally said. "If it's still standing, it'll have radios. Maybe water." "And if it's not?" I asked. "Then we find high ground. Build a signal fire. Pray." "We move at first light," he decided. "One more night here." That night, none of us slept. The smoke glowed in the distance like a second sun. Trees cracked like gunshots. And sometime near dawn, the wind turned again. It hit us like a slap. Sharp and sudden. The fire wasn't behind us anymore. It was beside us. "We leave now," Mom said. "We go. I don't care about the plan." "We can't see in this," Dad barked. "We'll die if we stay," they shouted. Cody started to cry. I stood and picked up my pack. "We leave," I said, louder than both of them. "Right now." Dad looked at me, really looked at me, and for the first time, I think he saw that I wasn't a kid anymore. He nodded once. "West it is." It wasn't a canyon. It was a funnel for death. We descended into Ash Canyon as the first light touched the smoke-heavy sky. The name wasn't on any map. Dad called it that because it always burned. "Hot winds rush down it during fires," he said. "Pushes flames like a bellows." Great. Perfect place for a family hike. The walls closed in fast. Steep, jagged cliffs on both sides. Trees above were torched, their trunks like skeleton fingers clawing at the sky. Embers floated in the air like fireflies. Beautiful, in a cruel way. "Keep your heads low," Dad said. "Watch your footing." The path was rough, ankle-deep ash and broken rock. Mom winced with every step. Her limp was worse now, and she leaned on Dad, who said nothing but walked slower. Cody was eerily quiet, too quiet. "He's overheating," Mom said. "We need to rest." "We stop. We burn," Dad replied again. I hated that phrase. I hated how true it was. 1/2 mile in, the wind changed again. A roar came from behind us, deeper than thunder, heavier than the earth. A backdraft. Dad froze. "Everyone down!" We hit the ground just as the fire surged over the canyon rim, a rolling tide of flame that danced along the cliff edge like it was alive. The air turned solid, hot, choking, like trying to breathe inside an oven. I covered Cody's face with my jacket. My skin felt like it was blistering just from the heat. Then, silence. The fire moved past. For now. We pressed on. 1 hour turned to 2. Every minute stretched like taffy. Every step was a test. The canyon narrowed again, and a tree had fallen across the path, still smoldering. "Climb over," Dad said. "Careful, it's hot." Cody went first, and I followed, but Mom hesitated. "I don't think I can make that jump." She tried anyway, and slipped. She hit the ground with a scream. Her leg bent the wrong way. "No, no, no." Dad dropped beside her. "It's broken. Damn it." Time stopped. There was no way to carry her through the rest of the canyon. Not fast enough. "You go," she said through clenched teeth. "Take them. I'll stay here." "Like hell you will," Dad growled. "James, please." "No!" He ripped a piece of tarp from his pack and started building a drag stretcher. Branches, rope, anything he could find. I helped, silently, holding back tears. We moved again. Slower than ever. Mom on the stretcher. Cody walking now, holding my hand with trembling fingers. The fire was catching up. Near the end of the canyon, we saw it. The outpost. A squat concrete building half collapsed, blackened by flame, but still standing. "There," Dad whispered. "We made it." Smoke curled from the roof. No movement inside. We approached cautiously, and that's when we saw the ranger's truck. Still parked. Still smoldering. Keys inside. "Radio first," Dad said, bursting through the door. "Water," Mom begged. "Please." Inside, it was chaos. Cabinets burned. Maps scorched. But in the back room, salvation. A steel locker. Inside, a radio. A signal flare. Cans of water. "We're alive," I whispered. "We're actually alive." Outside, the wind screamed again. The fire was coming. One last wall. One last chance. We had a roof over our heads again, but it felt more like a tomb. The ranger outpost creaked with every gust. The building had survived a fire before. That much was clear from the scorched walls and warped doorframe. But this fire was different. Bigger. Faster. Deadlier. Inside, Dad found the emergency manual. The radio required a specific frequency and power. The battery hookup was fried. "We'll try the flare," he said, "then fix the radio. One of them has to work." He didn't say what happened if they didn't. Cody chugged 2 cans of water before anyone could stop him. I drank slower. Every sip felt like gold. Mom leaned against the wall, face gray with pain. Her leg was swelling bad. Dad cut a strip of shirt to bind it and packed it with clean ash to prevent infection. It was all he could do. "What if no one's out there?" I asked quietly. "Someone will see it," he said, lighting the flare. "And if they don't—" He didn't answer. The flare hissed bright red against the haze, shooting above the trees in a desperate arc. It was beautiful. It was small. Minutes passed. Then an hour. The wind changed. The roar returned. "We've got maybe 15 minutes, Dad said. "Maybe—" He got the radio hooked to the truck's battery. A soft whine buzzed through the room. "Channel 9, emergency band." He clicked the mic. "This is Ranger Outpost Echo 4, requesting immediate evacuation. Repeat. Wildland fire inbound. 4 civilians and 1 injured. Coordinates: static. Then, copy that Echo 4. Aircraft inbound. Hold position." They heard us, I breathed. "They're coming." But the wind was faster. Ash whipped across the floor. Flames crested the treetops behind the canyon. Glowing orange, crawling toward us like a slow-motion tsunami. We poured the rest of the water across the roof and walls. Soaked rags. Covered vents. Dad slammed the door shut and braced it with a table. "Everyone on the floor." We laid there, curled together, breathing each other's fear. The heat outside grew unbearable. Metal warped. The air inside felt like soup. Thick and wrong. Cody started crying. Mom whispered to him, "Just hold on, baby. Just hold on." Then we heard it. Rotor blades. Louder. Closer. Right above us. "They found us!" I yelled. A second later, a bullhorn echoed through the canyon. "This is Firebird 3. Stay inside. Ground crew incoming." Minutes later, boots on the gravel. The door burst open. Fresh air flooded the room. And with it, firefighters in gear. Water packs. Oxygen masks. "We've got you," one of them said. "Let's move." We didn't walk out. They carried us. Lifted Mom onto a stretcher. Wrapped Cody in a silver heat blanket. Gave Dad a nod he didn't need to return. We were out. Out of the canyon. Out of the fire. But we'd never be the same. Not all scars are visible. Not all survivors walk away whole. It rained the day after they flew us out. Not much. Just enough to turn ash to mud and make the sky look less angry. The fire was still burning in other parts of the range, but our canyon was silent. Mom was airlifted to a hospital hours away. Compound fracture. 2nd-degree burns on her arm. They said she'd walk again, eventually, with time. She didn't say much that first day, just held Cody when he cried and stared out the window like the flames were still out there. Cody won't sleep unless I'm in the room now. He doesn't talk about the fire, not directly. But he started drawing black trees, red skies, a little house at the bottom of a cliff. Sometimes it's on fire, sometimes it's not. Dad stayed behind at the ranger base for a few days. Said he wanted to help coordinate the ground crews, make sure no one else got trapped. But I think he just needed to be close to the smoke. It's not guilt, he told me one night. It's just unfinished business. I didn't argue. I understood. When we finally went home, the air smelled wrong. Clean. Too clean. The scent of plastic and carpet and artificial lemon cleaner felt fake after days of pine and ash and blood. Our house wasn't touched by the fire, but we were. The news report said over 40,000 acres burned. 5 towns were partially evacuated. No confirmed deaths. Not yet. They called it the Cinderline Fire. They called us the Miracle Family. But they didn't know the whole story. Not about the silence in the canyon. Not about the choices we made. Not about what it cost to survive. Sometimes I wake up in the night, thinking I hear the fire again. That deep, rolling growl, like the earth was breathing smoke. But it's just wind, or a passing truck, or nothing. We lived. That's what matters. But there's a part of us still out there in the ash. And maybe that's the price you pay. Not just to survive, but to remember.